Hello, audience. Welcome to Soul Symphony. Thank you for tuning into my channel. So I hope that the information you find here helps you if you are on your healing journey. My name is Z again. So if you have the chance to watch my other videos, this channel is mostly for just healing. So I talk about mostly things that I have done in my healing journey. And if you are on healing journey, I hope this helps you. If it does, well, if you're not on one, that's okay too. Okay. So, and if you're not on one, it's okay also to pass the information along to somebody else who might be on the same healing journey. Well, when I say same, a healing journey, because we are all on our own unique healing journeys. Okay. So, today I'll go over insecurities. My previous videos have talked about several other things that are very important for us to address while we're going in our healing journey. Now, today I'm just going to talk about insecurities. Now, it's very common for us to hear the word insecurities. As soon as somebody does something that might not be acceptable or normal to us, we might just jump in and say, "Oh, that's their insecurities." Okay, that's just part of their insecurities, but very not very common for us to hear really what insecurities mean and what are they and where do they come from. We don't really hear that much. What we hear mostly is the word being thrown out there, but without really going deep into it to know what it means and where does it come from. Okay, so insecurities are mostly that feeling or not being enough. So sometimes there's like almost this little voice inside of a person telling them, "Oh, you're not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to be a wife. I'm not good enough to be a girlfriend. I'm not good enough to be a good friend. I'm not good enough for that job. I'm not good enough for that kind of dress or that specific whatever it might be." Okay, it's just mostly an overall feeling of inadequacy, that we're not good enough for something because of um because of things that may have happened in childhood or things that may have happened later on into adulthood. Now, not always insecurities are from childhood only. Insecurities can also come from being in toxic relationships later in life. We can have insecurities from being, if we mostly kind of come out of a relationship mostly. And it's not only relationships, it can be a job where we are always being put down, right? Bullied. It can be later in high school, in middle school, being bullied or feeling like we're not being really, not even praised. I would say more like feeling like we're being put down all the time about something that we're doing in even as an adult. It's not necessarily only as a child that we develop insecurities. Now, a lot of insecurities do come from childhood, especially when it comes to attachment. The type of attachment style that we have can be directly correlated to insecurities, the type of insecurities we'll have later on in life. Now, those insecurities that we have don't necessarily go away. They just kind of show up differently as we get older. Okay, they just show up differently. As a child, they're different type of insecurities, and then as we grow, those insecurities kind of change into something different, or kind of they're not necessarily changing. They're more like show up in our daily lives in a different way. So that's kind of something that I want to go over, so that we can understand that also our childhood has a lot to do with it, but also as an adult, we can also develop insecurities. It's not necessarily only when we're a child. So we have different type of insecurities. We have social insecurities. We have job insecurities. We have body insecurities. We have relationship insecurities. We have many more that I'm not really addressing. I'm just going over the overall most common ones, right? So if I start with I'll start with job insecurities. Job insecurities are mostly feeling inadequate for a job, for feeling that I'm not good enough for this job. I'm not qualified enough. Everybody's doing so much of a better job. When there's a project, the project is given to several other people and you're included in the project, you might feel overwhelmed because you might feel like the other people or the group members might know more than you, or the group members might be able to do a better job than you, or feeling that you do not want to expose those vulnerable sides of you that you feel they're not good enough compared to everybody else, compared to what everybody else brings to the table. So that's something that is very common. And though that also can come from low self-esteem, low self-worth. If we have low self-worth, we don't feel like we have we're not worthy enough of a certain competency or a certain environment, right? We are more likely to have our insecurities take over us and not be able to um, bring the best out of us. Those environments are most likely to bring actually the bad side of us, which is mostly linked to insecurities. So that's one thing for job insecurities. And also, job insecurity can have something to do related to relationship. When it comes to today's society in general, when people say, I'm a provider, right? I'm a provider. I'm a help my household. I'm help provide for my household. The first thing that comes in mind is, oh, you financially responsible for that household. You have to have a job to be financially responsible for that household, to be able to provide, to be able to bring food to the table, to pay the bills, to pay the mortgage or the rent, or whatever the financial needs are. You have to be able to work to be able to do that, right? So that's the first thing that comes in mind, even though being a provider is way more than just the financial side of things. Being a provider is not just financial. But again, in today's society, when we say someone is a provider, the only thing that is the focus goes on is mostly the financial side of things, right? So in a relationship where a husband or a spouse, I would say just one spouse is making more money than the other spouse, most likely the male or the husband, right? If the wife is making more than the husband, because of um because of societal, I would say societal role, gender role. We have that gender role that comes sometimes and creeps in. The man is supposed to be making more money than the woman, or in the same gender relationship, it's more likely, okay, that is something that has to be agreed upon. Oh, we do 50-50, or you pay a little bit more than this and I'll pay a little bit more than that. But in a traditional gender role household, right, the gender role is more likely the male, the man, the spouse is the one who actually, the spouse, I would say the husband, is the one who is more likely to be viewed as the provider. You go to work, even if the wife also works, but the husband has that weight, that feeling of obligation. I have to be the one providing for my household. I have to be the one paying the bills. And then if that is not fulfilled the way it's supposed to, or the way society approves of it, right? And there's this feeling of, I'm not good enough as a man. I'm not good enough. The masculinity part of things get impacted. And this person or this man is more likely to feel less of a less masculine than what society requires him to be because of that gender role, right? So therefore, there is a societal. So therefore, those two kind of overlap. The societal insecurities, as well as I would say relationship uh, part of insecurities, right? Those two kind of overlap because not only is society that's kind of dictating it, somehow what is defined as a provider, even though it's not necessarily only a financial thing. Being a provider is being able to provide, to bring to the table financial, emotional, physical, spiritual, right? All those things are necessary for a relationship to function and to work the way it's supposed to and to go to the direction it's supposed to. Finances only are not good enough because there are many, many, many rich couples out there that are definitely not in a happy relationship or in a happy marriage. So therefore, I will say that finances are not the only thing. They should not be the only factor that determines if being a provider. The wife or the spouse should not be the only one bringing the taking the emotional weight of the relationship, or the physical weight, or the spiritual weight. Everyone in a relationship, both parties should contribute equally, right? Equally, or a little bit more, one or the other, but everyone should bring something to the table on all those aspects, those four aspects that I have mentioned: physical, emotional, financial, spiritual, right? We cannot just say, oh no, I work all day, I'm tired, so I'm not gonna go ahead and contribute to this household spiritual anything. That doesn't work, right? That does not work. So therefore, in order for, and also emotional, same thing. I work all day. I'm so tired. I'm not giving you a hug, or I'm not going to spend time with you, cuddling or whatever else, the couple does on the emotional side to fulfill each other emotionally. So we have to be able to not only see as a society, let's not just see a provider as just a financial thing. Because in today's society, there are many wives that make way more money than the husband, right? So therefore, if it's only the money that makes you a provider, then what is the wife then? If she's making way more money, right? So therefore, I understand that gender roles have kind of switched a little bit over time, but still, there's still this expectation in today's society, and it has been like that for a long time. It's not only in today's society, it has been like that for a long time, that the gender role is more like the man or the husband, he goes to work, the wife stays home, and she's the homemaker. Now, for some people, it works 100% and they're really good with it. But at the end of the day, I believe that in a relationship, everyone should bring all the things besides just the financial thing. So when it comes to insecurities, the societal part of things bring all the insecurities also. And also, I would say on the societal part of things, the body image insecurities, also societal insecurities kind of also overlap. Because if we think about today, like social media, Instagram, right? There's something that's called Instagram model, right? So therefore, if you say anything is a model, that means that everyone out there should look up to that, right? So that's kind of the definition of a model. If you're a model, then I should look up to you and imitate what you're doing in order for me to do it right, right? So today's society with Instagram, we have Instagram models, right? Which, me personally, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now, you might be an Instagram model, does not mean that I'm going to find you pretty or, handsome or whatever that is, that in today's society we consider to be, the highlight of beauty, or the must be in order for you to be called beautiful, right? So the Instagram models, right? So the younger generations are more likely to look up to those models as the type of physical appearance they must have. Oh, I have to look this tall. I have to look this skinny. I have to look this rounded. I have to dress a certain way. I have to do my hair a certain way. I have to do my makeup a certain way. And all these by imitating these Instagram models. Now, I have nothing against Instagram models or Instagram anything. I really don't. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, it's something that is out there. The same way it has an impact, a positive impact, it has also a negative impact. And the negative impact, anything in life can have a positive and negative impact in society. And the Instagram model portion of things. Now, don't get me wrong, Instagram has many things on it, right? Many things. And they have spiritual, they have religious side of things, they have e-commerce, they have all kind of things on there. Well, all I'm saying is, when it comes to the younger generation, they're not there trying to sell e-commerce anything. They're not there trying to be religious on nothing. They're not trying to. What they're trying to do mostly is going through shorts, right? They go through shorts and then they look at who's saying what, who's doing what, who's looking like what, right? And then at the end of the day, we see this person who is, oh, Instagram model, she got 10 million views, or she got whatever views, she got whatever likes, right? And then we see that, oh, wow, if I look like her, then I might get that too. If I look like her, then I might be appealing to society. I might have this, I might have that. Oh, she has this endorsement, she have that endorsement. I might have that too. But so it's kind of make the younger generations look at beauty in a different lens, right? Or look at the model that they need to imitate in a different lens. So it brings these insecurities that I'm not tall enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not, my face is not model enough, my makeup is not good enough, my hair is not the way it's supposed to be, my clothes. It kind of brings this mentality of I have to pick any and every parts of me to kind of make it fit within this societal box that society has kind of dictate to say that this is what it looks like to be beautiful. If you don't look like an Instagram model, then you're not that beautiful, right? Now, that's just something that I believe. When I was teaching, I taught high school math for, I would say, almost 5 years, right? And then I taught middle school, and I did all the things too in between. So I've been in education for almost 13 years, I would say, total. But what I have seen from elementary school all the way to high school, so I kind of had the chance to interact with every age group pretty much, all the way until high school. Now, middle school, like eighth grade, seventh, eighth grade, mostly eighth grade, that's when it starts. Like the comparison, comparing each other's, oh, you have those shoes? I cannot have those shoes. Then if I don't have those shoes, then I'm not cool enough, right? So it brings these insecurities of not having enough, not being enough, right? And it's not, I would say it's not, of course, the children's fault. It's more likely, I believe, it's a societal thing, I believe, because when a child feels like, oh, because I don't have this specific material thing, I'm not good enough, children don't hear enough that self-worth is not linked to what you have. It's not a material thing, it's an inside thing. So I think it's mostly trying to build our children's self-worth. Once you have that self-worth growing up, many things as an adult will not try to persuade you that you're not good enough. There's nothing out there as an adult that will make you feel low enough to feel like I'm not enough. I'm not good enough for this. I'm not good enough for that, right? But it starts from childhood, really. As a child, it's really important for us to teach our children what their worth is. That self-worth is not because of what kind of shoes you're wearing. It's not because of what kind of shirt you wear, because of what kind of brand you wear, what kind of hair you have on. It's not what kind of makeup you have for high schoolers, especially, it's not what kind of car you have, because when I was teaching at high school, many children, many of the students already had their car. At 16 already they had cars, right? And then they use that a lot. Oh, look at you, you nothing. I got a car. Okay. And then it's like, no, because you have a car does not make you less. It does not make you more. It just makes you financially, your family is at a different level, at a different I would say at a different tax bracket, probably, right? Than this other student. That's all it is. But then that other student might be your boss one day. So therefore, personally, I don't see it as it's it defines your worth. Any financial money comes and goes. Material things come and go. It's very fluid. Our worth should not be, because it should be built when we're little kids, and it should be pretty consistent as we grow up. And I would say progressive, but consistently progressive. The older you get, more you get all the qualities, more you get all the correct qualities to your character. Your character is built up and gets better, right? And as you grow up, all those qualities you have within you will bring more qualities, right? And then therefore, it should be something that we teach our children as little kids to know what it means even to have a worth. And then once you are worthy of something, to know how to also maintain that worth, how to keep it consistent, and how to build upon it. Your self-esteem comes from self-worth. Once you have really good self-worth, you understand that the concept of self-worth, the self-esteem part comes easy enough, because the self-esteem is way more important also in relationships, right? In romantic relationships, especially, because when you have low self-esteem, you're more likely to attract people who might abuse you. That's just the sad reality of things. When you have a high your self-worth, you know your worth, you know you have a decent high self-esteem, you are not going to attract toxic relationships or toxic people, because as soon as you start seeing those things, you will not stay, because you know your worth. And those two things will be the triggering factor for you to actually exit and be like, no, I know my worth, and I know that I can do better. The self-esteem part will actually help for you to understand that I know my worth, so therefore I'm not going to take this. I will not stay in this situation. And then the self-esteem part will also allow you to know that I can do better. I can do better. So I will not stay here and take this abuse, right? So as little kids, that's when we need to kind of teach our children that. And then once they get older, they understand that no matter what happened, don't let nothing bring you down when it comes to your self-worth and self-esteem, right? And that's the difference, I believe, between certain levels, certain people in society in general. That we end up in certain situations most of the time because our insecurities of being too afraid to get out of it, right? And when I go back to attachment style, which I did mention, the attachment style, the ones that are the most likely to actually end up having high insecurities um, are the ones with anxious attachment and avoidant attachment. And those two attachments are very similar. The only difference between the two is that they both come from neglectful parents, neglectful caregivers. The only difference is that one child actually learned that the avoidant learned that, well, I need mom to take care of me, or I need dad to take care of me. I need mom and dad to take care of me in a certain way when I'm in distress. But they don't. They don't give me that emotional support. They don't really give me that hug. They don't tell me it's going to be okay. They don't really ask me to come sit down, put your head on my lap. Come on, let's talk. They don't give me that soothing effect, that nurturing effect that parents should give. They don't give me those things, right? When I am stressed about something, I just have to learn on my own to go and soothe myself. When I'm anxious about something that happened at school, when I got bullied at school, I just learned to come and sit in my room and think about it and cry and soothe myself. I just learned to take care of me. That's the avoidant. After so long, the avoidant does not expect any kind of emotional support from nobody from outside. Their emotional support is themselves, and that starts since childhood. They are their own emotional support. So therefore, they grow up to be very self-sufficient, very independent individuals, right? And they're in life, they are very successful when it comes to material realm. But when it comes to the emotional side of things, there is a lack of being able to actually say what kind of emotions they're feeling, because they learn to keep it all in, and not involve other people, because they know that other people might not be able to actually give them what they need. And they're the only one who can provide that for themselves. And that comes from childhood. And when it comes to also the other one, the anxious attachment is pretty much the same thing. But the child learned at some point, if I make a lot of noise, if I annoy mom, if I throw things, I throw a tantrum, mom or dad will give me the attention I need. So it's still the same kind of concept of not getting taken care of emotionally. But the reactions, the way the child has to react, and the reaction that they receive in return are different. The avoidant learn that no matter what it is, I'm not gonna get. I just know that it doesn't matter what I do. Mom is not gonna give it to me, so I'm not even gonna try. I'm just gonna soothe myself. And those children usually at early age, parents believe them to be, oh, he's such a good child. He never gave me trouble. He will always take care of himself. He will not really ask for much. But unfortunately, that is not a that is not really a sign of it's not a sign of self-sufficiency. It's more like a sign that that child is shutting down. So it's very important for us to pay attention to that in childhood. And then you have the anxious one. The anxious, of course, they become clingy as adults. They are scared of being left in a relationship, so they stay in relationships even when things are very hard. Even when they know for a fact they're being abused, they will not leave because they're afraid that they might not get that kind of emotional. It doesn't matter how small that emotional support is, even if the abuse is really large, huge, but the emotional support is the smallest possible, they would not leave that relationship because they're afraid that they might not get that emotional support from somebody else again. So the same way as a child, they feel like they have to do so much. In a relationship, they feel the same way. They feel like, I just have to tolerate this person. I just have to change the way I do things. So they will have to give so much of themselves. They will give so much of themselves. They will try to not bring trouble. They will not try to advocate for themselves. They will not try to do much to actually get that support, or they will definitely not have boundaries because any and everything goes as long as the other person can give them the little bit of emotional support or a little bit of emotional affection that they actually get from them. That will kind of be the driving factor for them to keep going and staying in that relationship. So again, those two attachment styles are very, very important. When we understand that's from childhood, what we teach our children have a lot to do with how actually as an adult we behave or they behave, right? That is something that we can break. Sometimes it's a cyclical thing. Unfortunately, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. Now I remember I'm gonna share this one personal thing about when I my parents by age 5 they were not together anymore. So I grew up with a stepmother, right? But then I did not see my mother again until I was 12. So my mother, when I saw her, I didn't even know what she looked like. People had to tell me, "Oh, that's your mother," right? So we stayed in touch, but not as much. I grew up mostly with my grandmother, and because by that time my mom already remarried, so I stayed with my grandmother. So when I saw her as an adult, I was already married and I have my kids. So she came to visit. That was 2016. I asked her, we were just having a conversation because I never could understand. Nobody told me the reason why my parents divorced. So I didn't know. So I was curious, right? But for me, in my mind, it was like, oh, my mom left us. I didn't, because I just made it up without really knowing even the story behind it, right? So, because again, culturally, people don't really tell you certain things. Certain things are taboo. You just have to find out. You can't find out if you ask. Maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to ask. So I was already an adult. So I asked my mom, we were just talking. And I was like, Mom, I was like, what happened? What happened that you and dad, you separated and you left. I was like, so you left. And then she was like to me, I always been kind of a blunt child. I didn't used to I don't know, sugarcoat things. So as an adult too, I learned it's better to just say things directly, respectfully than sugarcoat things, right? Because it's perceived better, I believe. And there's no room for confusion. If you blunt and direct, without disrespect, your what you're trying to say, I believe, is more likely to actually get to the other side instead of being lost in between, right? So when I asked my mother directly, I was like, "You left us. What happened?" And she said, "Well, my mom did the same thing. She left me with my grandmother." And I was like, hmm. So for me, at first it was a shocker for me to hear that. I was really shocked. I was like, hmm. And I was already a mother at that time, right? And I was like, I do not imagine myself leaving my children to my mother just because my mother left me and I had to grow up with my grandmother, right? Left us. So, and I was like, So again, that was just going back to the anxious attachment style, right? So knowing your type of attachment style, it's very important to know what kind of relationship you had as a child with your parents. Now your parents have their own things, right? They have their own things to deal with. That's why in my last video I did talk about resentment, like how when we grew up, we have the tendency to resent our parents because certain things we see it as the parent was not competent enough to provide us with what we needed to actually grow up in a healthy environment or to become a healthy child, grow up as a healthy child and therefore become a healthy adult. So I had to go back on that. Now, going back on that, right? In my own case, for a long time, I could not understand that part. Like, how can you leave 4 children, right? And go and just go on with your life? But again, as an adult, especially in my healing journey, I came to understand that my mother has also her own trauma, right? Once we understand that part, we understand how we can break the cycle. Anxious attachment usually is something, unfortunately, and avoidant too. It can be something that is a cyclical thing within generations. It's cyclical. It comes and it keeps going. Because the way I learned how my parents parent me, for me, that's my model. That's what I will mimic. That's what I will do because there is no book how to, yeah, there are books how to raise children, but every child is unique. When you raise your child, every child have different needs. Yeah, we might have children might have common needs, right? But every child has their unique personality. They have their unique needs. Some children are born with autism. Some children are born with other things, right? ADHD later on. Every child has their own unique things. So therefore, we have to learn that it's not a cookie cutter thing, right? There's no such a book with that specific child when that child is born. So the only thing that we have most of the time is the idea of what parenting looks like by looking back at how our parents actually parented us, right? So by using that model, we're more likely to repeat the trauma of our parents. Trauma of our parents when it comes to they were avoidant. So therefore, they raise us as an avoidant. So therefore, we feel like my child, oh, you crying, you throwing tantrums, or you telling me that you hurting, da da da. You can soothe yourself. Sit right there, right? That's something, unfortunately, that people do, right? I'm not saying that it's the right thing. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing, but I'm saying it's very important for us to sit down and pay attention to those things. Pay attention to those things. When we have children, how are we actually giving our children our trauma? How are they inheriting our trauma? How are they doing that? And once we understand the cycle, we understand sometimes our insecurities too. If we spend all day talking to our child, we feel insecure. We don't feel like our body image is good enough, right? I feel too fat. I feel too small. I feel too short. I'm this, I'm that. My hair is too ugly. It's too kinky, or it's too this, or it's too that, right? And and then we saying that out loud, right? Our child can hear that, and our child has the same exact traits as us. Therefore, our child is more likely to see it as, oh, mom feels like she's ugly because of her hair. Well, I have the same hair. So therefore, I must be ugly too, right? So it's very important for us to just pay attention to those things. Now, paying attention to them doesn't mean that we have to punish ourselves, because again, some of these traumas we inherited from generations, right? And you cannot wipe an entire 3 4 5 generations trauma in a day. So that's something that we have to just be, first of all, acknowledging it, being aware that it's there. Once we're aware that it's there, it's easier to actually start understanding it. Once we understand it's there, the other step is to understand, where did it come from? Was it from mom? Was it from dad? Or is it from grandma, grandpa? Do any of my siblings have the same? Or is it just me? Investigating. Once we investigate, then we know the origin, and it's easier to kind of work toward the solution. Now, what should I do next? Now, what should we do? Acknowledging it is the first thing to do. Once we acknowledge it, that's already a big one. And then have realistic expectations, understanding that that trauma, if you want to go and do the healing process for it, it will not heal in a day. It will not heal in 2 days. It will be a process. And if you already have grown children, that's something that you have to talk to them too, because more likely they have inherited some of that trauma from you. So talking to them is important, so that cycle can actually stop from them, right? Because it's a cyclical thing. I could not understand my mom's thought process, but her thought process is very justified. My mom did the same thing. So for her, in her, eye, it was normal. I just leave, my child, and then my grandma is here. They're not on the street. They're not orphans. They're not homeless. They're being taken care of. But again, grandmother raising a child and a mother raising a child are two different things. A grandmother is there to spoil your child. A parent is there to actually raise the child, or supposed to raise the child. The grandmother is there as, I'm going to spoil your child for a couple of days, and I'm going to return that child back to you. And you deal with that child and try to entangle all that stuff I put in that child. But that's just how it works, I think. That's what I have seen. But at the end of the day, insecurities are really something that, just to understand the expectations, understand that it's not something that we can just in a blink of an eye get rid of, right? It's a process. Recognizing they're there, recognizing where they came from, their origin, where did they start, when did they start, how, right? And then processing that to understand that what kind of behavior are those insecurities linked to. Once we understand also the type of behavior, then we understand that, oh, if I behave in a certain way, those are my insecurities actually making me behave that way. So we more likely to stop ourselves from behaving that way by understanding actually what's triggering it, because the triggering factor is mostly the insecurities, right? And then just making sure that we are compassionate. We really, really feel compassion for ourselves, because at the end of the day, especially if those insecurities come from childhood, right? We could not do much as a child to help ourselves for those insecurities not forming. We couldn't do much about that. Now that they're already here, the biggest thing we can do is really making sure that we work on them. We understand them. We kind of face those behaviors, making sure that we stop those patterns. That's all we can do, really. And then seeking help, right? Once we identify them, seeking help, making sure that we do the inner work. If they are linked to anything as low self-esteem, low self-worth, low confidence, right? To be able to work those up, to bring those up, because once those come up, usually, our insecurities are more likely to be a trigger. we would not really feel as much insecure about those things, especially when it comes to the body insecurities. When it comes to body insecurities, even job insecurities, even though the job is really linked to the financial part of things, the job insecurity is more like when it comes to competency, because your competency at something is something that we link mostly with self-worth, right? And self-esteem. If our self-esteem and self-worth are low, we're more likely to feel like we're not competent, even if we have all the training in the world, right? Even if we are trained, even if we're given all the tools possible for that specific job, and we know we're equipped with those tools, we still feel internally that we might not be good enough for that, to perform the way it's supposed to be done, right? And then stop comparing yourself to people, especially if you're on Instagram, right? God made us all differently. We are all different for a reason. If God wanted us to be all the same, all beautiful, we all beautiful in our own ways anyway. But if God wanted us to be all Instagram models, then there will not be no Instagram models to begin with, right? Since it's such a common thing, if God make us all beautiful, well, Instagram models, we all beautiful our own ways. But yeah, Instagram models have their own beautiful selves. We have our own beautiful selves in our own ways. So therefore, just to learn to accept ourselves the way we are, self-acceptance, accepting your beautiful parts, your quirky parts, and your whatever parts people think that they're not beautiful, as long as they're beautiful to you, that's what counts, right? And set realistic goals. Realistic goals as I'm going to work on this specific thing today. Oh, body image. Hey, I feel like I want to be fit. Okay, I'm going to work out a little bit. Or whatever the thing is. Hey, I feel like, I've gained a few pounds and I don't feel good about myself. I have these insecurities about my body. I need to be able to, I'm going to go ahead to the gym. There are solutions, right? There are solutions. I'm going to go to the gym, lose a few pounds, feel a little bit more fit, whatever that thing is, right? Or I'm going to eat healthier. Or when it comes to job insecurities, job insecurities, when it comes to self-worth and self-esteem, again, just working on those parts, making sure that you increase your self-esteem, your confidence, your self-worth. There are many things you can do. There are online trainings, there are things, I'll put some resources on that also, right? And there are groups that you can join, to help with that. Again, most of the time too, body image is linked to self-worth, self-confidence, and self-esteem, right? So once your body image is really the way you want it, most of the time those kind of align. Even though the body image is an external thing, it still impacts the internal. That's just a sad reality. Once we feel like from outside, we accept who we are from the outside, right? And our body image is the way we want it. We're okay with our body image and no body insecurities. Normally, the rest of it kind of falls in beautifully, right? The self-worth is definitely something that should be built up. Try to build it up as much as we can. It's not about what we don't have, it's about what we have, right? What we have, what do we have? What do we have internally? What do we have internally? Like I said in my self-worth video, self-worth, I did a video, maybe the second or third one, right? About the 3 selves. Self-worth is one of them. You are worthy of any and everything on this planet Earth, just for existing. Because, like I said in that video, if every day there are a couple of people that die, right? Millions of people die and nobody else is born, eventually the human race will be extinct, right? The human capital is a thing. The same way we see finances as a capital, the human capital is a thing. We are worthy just for existing. You are worthy just for existing. You don't need to do much. If you have a cat and a dog or a parrot or a lizard, whatever your pet is, they do not need to do much. All they need to do is be there. Eat, do their business, sleep, and get pet here and there. That's all they do, right? Their existence, you just love them for being there. They don't have to go to work. They don't have to help you pay the bills. They don't have to do nothing else. besides just existing in your apartment, sometimes even stinking it, right? They stink it and all that. And you have this little change the litter if you have a cat like me. But all I'm saying is, right, the self-worth part of things, you do not need to do much of anything to be worthy. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of being accepted for who you are. You're worthy of any and everything out there that any and everyone is worthy of, right? So that's just a basic thing that we have to literally ingrain in ourselves. Telling ourselves every day, I'm worthy. I'm worthy of any and everything around. Whoever, if somebody did it, they're worthy of it. I can do it too because I'm worthy also. And you don't even need to compare yourself at all. The comparison is something kills things. It kills definitely a lot. So it's not even necessary for the comparison. The biggest thing is just to understand that we are worth it. You're worth it just for being there, right? The realistic goals to know actually what should I start working with. Making a list is the best thing to see what should you work on. What's the priority? Where are these insecurities coming from? And from there, working up, right? And then professional help, like counseling. A spiritual counselor is a great one. A therapist is a great one, right? Someone who is psychologist is a great one. Now, a psychiatrist, I would not say so, unless you feel like you have all the psychiatric things that are possible, like anxiety, depression, which sometimes they can come with insecurities, right? If that's the case, then yes, psychiatrists can actually be the one diagnosing it, and they might be able to also link it to certain insecurities, right? And tell you what insecurities might be linked or might be the trigger for your anxiety and depression, right? So that's something that definitely to look into psychiatrists if that's the case. But until then, you just need really just a counselor if possible. There are a lot of groups out there too, especially for body image. If you Google it, you'll find a lot of body image. I'll go ahead and find some links and I'll put them up, right? And you'll be able to find anonymous groups the same way you have the AA groups, right? You have there are also groups just like that. There are groups nowadays for any and everything, really, unless you don't want to participate. Otherwise, there are groups out there, okay? And sometimes it's just to talk to someone and to vent, just to take it out, because sometimes it's very hard to, even for us to admit to ourselves that we have these insecurities, right? We know they're there, consciously or unconsciously, we know they're there, but it's very hard for us to admit it to ourselves that they're there. And once we admit it, the awareness part of things, now once we kind of work all the way down to seeking help, right? Awareness, investigation, where did they come from? How did they develop? Where did they come from? Who? If it's through a parent, through a caregiver, through grandparents. When? Was it in childhood? Was it later on as a teenager? Were you bullied in school? Right? All those is kind of something to investigate. And then when did they start it? When did I start feeling this way? Right? And then going down, because sometimes you might not feel anything and someday something just triggers it and then you start feeling these things. Do you have any physical manifestations? Anxiety, depression, and those can be physical manifestations of insecurities, right? Or sometimes even aggressiveness, right? Being aggressive, feeling triggered, being aggressive, passive aggressive, right? That's something that sometimes happens, especially when somebody else mirror to you something that triggers those insecurities. When somebody else has that one thing that you feel like you're not adequate enough, you're not enough to have, don't feel like you have it because you're not enough. Once somebody else has that, sometimes it can trigger it because it kind of shows you what you don't have. And that can actually trigger, it can be a triggering factor. So that's something, once you investigate again, you get to the understanding that you need help, right? That's when really you need to start looking into those counselors and therapists. And if you don't have the money for it, that's something that, again, insurance and all that stuff comes and become involved into, right? And co-pays and all that. There are groups, free groups that you can do online or in person. right? And you can definitely do that. Just to talk to someone and to vent about how you feel, and other people being able to tell you that, hey, you're not alone in this because I have the same thing. I think it brings a sense of, oh, I'm not alone. Somebody understands how I feel, right? It brings that sense of solidarity in some point, as somehow it brings that. So therefore, it helps you understand that I'm not alone in this healing process. At the end of the day, there's somebody who feels the same way as me, even though really that's not something we should wish for nobody. But the fact that you understand that you're not alone in this journey, somebody else is also in this journey. And if you have certain questions because you don't understand certain things, maybe you can ask that person. Maybe they're a little bit ahead of you in their healing journey, and they might be able to tell you and give you tips, what they have done, what have helped, what have not helped, right? So it's mostly that part. It's not even the part that, hey, I'm happy that they're also in the same problem. No, it's more like, I'm glad that somebody else can understand where I'm coming from, and I can also talk to them to see their point of view, to see if they have any tips, if we can exchange information that might be able to help both of us in our healing journey. So it's mostly that, right? Okay, so I'll go ahead and stop it here. So today I went over insecurities. Please, 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 all right? I will say that every time. Please take care of yourself. Make sure that you do your little, whatever works for you, right? If it's the groups that work for you, therapy works for you. If you have any meditations that you do, yoga, workout, you go to the gym, whatever it is that you do that actually keeps you balanced, keeps you going, keeps you want to keep improving yourself, keep moving forward in your healing journey. Please, 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 please keep doing that. Okay? Keep doing that. Some days you feel low, understandable. Some days everything is decent. So mostly be in the mindset of, today is great, today is good, right? Affirmations, today's a good day. I gotta do what I gotta do. There are days that I'm not feeling good enough. I'm not gonna focus on that. I'm just gonna focus on the days that are good, on the positive, right? Okay. Until then, please take care, okay? A lot of love and a lot of care. Bye.